Okay, so when we're looking at this, you'll notice that we have our setup 1, 2, 3, 4 in the defense, 1, 2, 3 in our midfield, 1, 2, 3 up top. This is set up against 1, 2, 3, 4 in their defense, 1, 2, 3, 4 in their midfield, 1, 2. This is against a 4-4-2. This is what we've been playing against almost all year. The differences we'll see are teams playing like this, where their 4-4-2 has a sweeper, just like ours. Or we would also play against teams like Triple Tech, where when they would get the ball, it would turn into a 4-2-4 instead of a 4-4-2. Okay? Now, whichever formation we're playing against is what's going to dictate where our space is and how we find space within the formation against theirs. Okay? So what we got to think about is when they're set up in a 4-4-2, there is one line. Okay? We have a line of players all the way across. That's one. There's a second line of players all the way across. There's two. And then there's a third line of players. And that's three. Now, is it going to always be set up where it's nice and neat, where it's a straight line? No. But for the most part, you're going to realize that there's 2 strikers, there's 4 midfielders, and there's 4 defenders. Okay? So what we're looking to start doing more of is playing in between the lines and then splitting players to move the ball up into our next level. So what this means is, if the ball is with our left mid, instead of looking to play straight up to our strikers for a run through, what we're looking to do is to pass it around until one of our players moves into an opening, and then we play a split pass. Okay? Now remember, a split pass is one that splits the 2 defenders. It goes in between them. Okay? So in order to move the ball up the field, we're looking to possess it in between the lines, split the defenders into space, and then once again, we're possessing the ball in between the lines. We're in between the offense and the mids, just as we were in between the mids and the offense. Okay? One of the things that we got to start realizing is how important it is that each of us plays our role so that we know where the other players should be. Sounds pretty simple, but it's really important because as the ball moves, players move. Okay? It's really easy to explain this when you think about a defense standing still, but a defense doesn't stand still. So what we have to think about is when the ball moves somewhere, what happens? Okay? So our ball starts out with our sweeper. We play it to our left back. Our left back is here with the ball. So that means that their right striker is going to come over. Our left mid is moving over, and our left striker is moving down to create our triangle. But that means that their center mid is going to go with the left mid. Their right mid is going to go with our left striker. Their right back is going to step into the gap. They're going to shift over, they're going to shift over, and they're going to shift over. Okay? So now, when we're in this position, we have other people to deal with. And the reason it matters that we're in the places we're supposed to be is, if the ball comes here, and they have their defender on their back, they need to know that if they play the ball sideways, that our right mid's going to be in the place they should be in. Or if they play the ball into this gap, that our center mid's going to be in the place where they need to be. Playing in position allows us to have an outlet pass to where players should be all the time, so if we're in doubt, we can play it to an area as much as we can play it to feet. That being said, it also allows us to start predicting where the ball is going to go so that we can begin our movements into space before the ball gets to where it actually is going to be. So what that means is, if we know that our center mid and our right mid are going to be here, we can drop down a little bit over here, or we can drop up, because remember, if their man is in between the ball and us, we are not going to get the ball. So we can either drop down into space, or we can drop up into space. But if we think about it, probably going to make more sense if we drop down so that our right mid, if it gets switched, has more space to move into over on this side. Okay? It also allows, if the ball goes back to our sweeper, for a quick swing out to the right-hand side. Okay? But what this allows us to do is if the ball is here, it goes from left back to left mid and then down to center back, we already see that the pattern is moving the ball from the left side of the field to the right side of the field. And that's what we're talking about, anticipating and moving into gaps. So as the ball moves from the left to the left mid to the center back, we should already have players rotating into position so that they can step down and have a play on the ball. Now, as soon as this ball has gone, remember, if you don't have a play on the ball, don't just stand. There's no reason to stand. That's when you can move up into that advanced position to possibly get the ball back when it swings around, okay? So we've gone up, down, we've gone up again. So remember, as we're shifting, the defense is going to be shifting too. So that means they're going to step down, they're going to shift over, they're going to shift over, they're going to shift here, they're going to shift into the gap, they're going to shift down, and then we have our player shifting up and over. And this is where our opportunity is going to present itself, okay? So we've gone up, down, over, okay? Leslie was wide open a majority of the game over on the right-hand side, and Priscilla was wide open a majority of the game on the left-hand side, because as the ball shifts, you got to think, the whole defense is shifting over as well. So if the defense shifts over, that means our openings are going to be where the ball came from, higher up. That doesn't mean that the ball goes sideways and we pass it right backwards. No, don't do that. We do that too much. What that means is that the ball is traveling to this side. We've created an overload where there's more defenders on that side, which means that if we touch down and over, that pass is going to be open. That's an example of when we can play the ball in the air across the field. It's when we force their team over to one side, created openings here, so that we can play it over. We've done this, okay? This is where we start to get stuck though. The ball comes here, and this player is taking the ball and dribbling up the left-hand side, which is great. But if that happens, we need to have our two strikers moving into position to support the player with the ball, okay? And this, if you think about it, when we get it to this point, there's two defenders or three defenders, and there's three of us. This is the drill that we do in practice where we punt it out, you control it, and you move forwards. So last game, what we started to have happen was we started to begin to attack the middle, and a few times we attempted an overlapping run to look for the player there. However, the overlap came this close to our player and then went right there. So the pass we were trying to make was about 5-foot pass, which is really close. What needs to happen instead is when the ball goes up, the overlap comes out wider so that the ball can be played further in advance into the gap, player can move on, and then we can fill back middle. This is what we're lacking, is once we pass that ball, that movement back to the middle and looking to receive the ball back. So one of the things we have to start doing is, when we get the option where the ball is switched over to this side, okay, and this is important not just for strikers but for all players, especially our outside mids, is we need to start doing this. I'm going to reverse it so that we're attacking this goal now, so you can see it in perspective. Okay. What needs to start happening, especially when we're on a breakaway, is whoever has the ball, so the ball was just with our left striker, okay? Whoever has the ball needs to attack a defender and make them commit. What that means is, don't dribble down the side of the field. If you're dribbling down the side of the field, that means you're going into space so you can cross it back into the middle. If you're attacking on a fast break with the ball, you need to attack a player head on. What that means is, you're dribbling down, and you're dribbling right at a player to make them make a decision. Now, if we think about it, there's three of them. If we have one player over here, both of them are worried about that. Whoever is trailing behind, if you attack a player, that means that this person is focusing on you. which means that this whole area is going to be open. Because in order to defend this, they either have to leave you alone or someone else has to rotate all the way over. We want this to happen. We want this rotation to happen because look, if we overlap into space and this player moves over, all of a sudden we have a one-on-one right here where our player can run through, get the ball, and have a shot on goal. Okay? Our goal is always to pull defenders out of position. So one way we can easily do that is by attacking a player, making them commit, and wherever the gap is left to overlap into that space. If we pass that ball off and keep moving, all of a sudden we have two players going in towards the goal and one player able to easily cross it into space. This is what we did when we scored both of our goals on Friday. It was created by the ball going from one side of the field to the other, and once it got to the other side of the field, the first goal was Leslie scored it right here. The ball was crossed, it went through, boom, Leslie was in position, she hit it home. Our second goal was scored when the ball, Mia was playing right striker, was when the ball started on the right hand side, it was switched through our midfield, it came down, and it was crossed into the middle. Mia received the ball right here. Excuse me, she was further over. She received the ball right here with an opportunity to shoot. But the reason it happened is because the ball went down, it went over, it went through, and then it came back across. There was no straight up and down in order to create that opportunity. So what we have to start doing, okay, and this is one thing that we've been struggling with because what ends up happening is, right at midfield, okay, we got to think about it like this. This is their defense. We're trying to score at this goal. We do a good job of getting the ball right here. Okay? We do a really good job of getting the ball to Leslie right here. Okay? But now what happens is, it's Leslie versus 4 of their players. And then this is what happens. Leslie gets by the first player and gets down to here. This player drops, this player drops, this player drops. So Leslie goes further down, and then it's 1, 2, 3, this player's rotated back and 4. And it's 1v4. And usually what happens is Leslie gets to about right here, she cuts the ball back, tries to go through the middle, and then she has 3 players who collapse on her. This is our offensive strategy at the moment, is dribble down, try to cut it back, get surrounded by people, and lose the ball. That's what we do, okay? What we need to start doing is, which we did better last game, first off, when the ball comes here, remember, we work the ball backwards before it goes forwards. Okay, so we drop that ball off. But what needs to happen is this. When the ball gets to this position, if it's 1v1 and there's no one behind, like there's no one like that, okay, if they're flat across the middle and you can get by them, boom, go by them, that's fine. Then it's 1v1 still. However, what they're doing, what all teams are going to do, is they play their center backs or their sweepers further back. So that if you do get by it, and this is what number 12 on Lamar did to us every single time. She's like, oh, you're going to get by there? That's fine. I'm fast and I can just run ahead. And I cut you off. Okay, cool. Still not a problem. What becomes a problem is when we say, oh, I already beat them, I'm going to beat them too, and I'm going to keep going. Because then this player has time to recover and this player's in the middle. And even though we just got by this player right here, look what we're running into. This player recovers down, this player recovers down. And all of a sudden, we're back into 1v3 or 1v4. You can juke them all you want, but as soon as you get into the middle, boom, you have another player collapsing. Boom, you have another player collapsing. And all of a sudden, you're surrounded. This is not successful. We have to stop doing this. Ways to stop doing this are like this. 1, once you get by this first player, go sideways. Or once you get by this first player, look up and see where our other runners are. They're going to be following you. So if that striker is following you into space, drop it off, and then you move into space and get the ball back. Or, once you get by them and you see your other strikers running with you, cross the ball here from the 30-yard line. This cross, ahead of where they're running, because remember, they're all running down, everyone's moving downwards, playing it ahead of them into space is fine, but you need to do it from further back so that you're not crossing it from right here straight to the goalie, because we kick it to the goalie a lot. Because we get so far down, when we cross it back, we don't get enough angle on it and it goes to the goalie instead of going up to the penalty spot. So what we're looking to do is create an opportunity where we can get an early ball into the middle, have our strikers following in on it, and have that striker moving back post. So if that ball does go across and past the striker, we already have that other striker moving down to receive the ball, take a touch, and get a shot off. That's option number one. A second option, when we get to this scenario, is to play between the lines. And this is our number one option, is to play between the lines, which means you're going horizontal or diagonally backwards. So the ball comes up from your midfield. Instead of turning and trying to run, which is what we don't want to do, we don't want to turn and run. Do not turn and run with the ball. Instead of turning and running, we dribble backwards and sideways and allow other players to run through. And remember, if we have a runner going through and we want to pass, we split the defense. Okay? If you're moving backwards and sideways, that means this defender is moving backwards and sideways, which means that their momentum is going this way. So all you have to do is pass it between them so that this player can run onto it. You're not playing to this player's feet right here. You're playing it out in a gap so that they can run onto it. Now, once you make that pass, you got to help them out. Make that run to the middle. Make that run on the weak side so that when they get it, they're not stuck here with three people surrounding them and then they try to dribble through. That doesn't work. We're not dribbling through the defense. We're not going to dribble through the defense. Simple as that. But it only works is if we have that other player making a run so that we can make that pass through. Another option we have, and this one involves dribbling. The ball gets to the right striker. Dribble up to the center back. Make them commit to you. Drop the ball off behind for your striker. Okay? So that means the striker sees the right striker dribbling down. Other striker moves back and around. Drop that ball off. You make your run through pass, and all of a sudden, we're right there again. So once more, striker recognizes right striker is attacking center back. They make an overlapping run. Right striker leaves it for striker, makes a run through themselves, split pass for the striker to run onto. Once that happens, we must be in support positions. You have to move up in support positions. Otherwise, it's going to turn into one player trying to dribble. We do not want one player dribbling through. The ball is always faster than a person. Always. Forever and always. It will never change. You will never outrun this ball. Which means if we want to get it up the field the fastest, we need to pass and not dribble. Third option. The ball gets to the right striker. Communicate with the left striker. That means Leslie is talking to Priscilla or Mia, or Priscilla Hernandez is talking to Leslie or Mia or Priscilla. And you play to space not to feet. So that means is you're looking for this diagonal ball up in the air towards the sideline in the corner, not down towards the goal, towards the sideline or the corner. This is into space so that our striker can move on to it. And then the same exact rules apply. You must follow the play in order to give them an option. Once the ball gets switched, okay, the defense is going to collapse. Attack a player. Open up the room for an overlap, or open up the opportunity for a split pass for the player to run onto. Do not try to just dribble it all the way to the goal. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. We constantly lose the ball when we try to dribble all the way to the goal. Do not dribble all the way to the goal. So on that move, let's look at what the defense is going to do. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the ball is switched. Our left striker is running towards it. That means they're running backwards. They're running back to the middle. They're running back to the middle. They're running back to the middle. So what we have to do is recognize that. We have to recognize that's going all the way through. This is where we got scored on versus Martin, versus Lamar, versus Lamar, and versus Arlington. Okay? Is they made this pass right here from right to left. And they made this run, right striker running across, splitting our defense, and then they played the ball through that player running from the weak side. That's what we need to look for. So when the ball gets switched all the way over, right striker's like, hey, left striker's open. Let's play it up to them. Okay, sweet. Play it up into space. Left striker gets to it. Defense drops down. This player has to make a run through, pull the defense with you, and this player has to move into space. Okay? That offers a switch. If you don't get it through, keep going. Our left striker makes a run through, and all of a sudden, we're still in our 1, 2, 3. All this happens if we are willing, when we first get the ball, at the top of the field, or at midfield. This only works if we are willing to pass or dribble backwards and sideways and not attempt to turn and dribble through the defense. Do not get the ball here and try to turn and dribble through the defense. It does not work. 1 out of 7 tries is not a good ratio. We do not want this play to happen. Because that's about the success rate we were having during the game. 1 out of every 7, 1 out of every 8. I don't want that. Okay? Now, sweeper. This is where you got to get better. One of the things we have to start realizing, okay, we're back to facing this way. We're trying to score this way. We have to start realizing that wherever the ball is, this sweeper needs to be down beneath the center back and offering a support option. If the ball drops to our left back, the sweeper needs to be down and to the side. If the ball moves to our left mid, the sweeper needs to be in a position where the player can see all the way down to them, which means that you're going to have to be more weak side when the ball is on this side. If the ball gets switched to our right mid, same thing. You need to be in a position where they can see you. The ball is switched to the right back. You need to be in a position where you can offer a support pass. So your job as a sweeper, when we have the ball, is to move all the way from one side to another throughout the entire time so that you're offering a support option, but also, say the right back loses, if you're moving in the place you're supposed to be, so you're all the way over here when the right back has the ball. If we lose the ball and they possess it right here, you're ready to step up and defend. So you're ready to step up and aid your player in defense. So the same way that the strikers have to read which direction the ball is going in so they can move into their gaps, sweeper also needs to do the same thing where they move side to side in order to offer a support option as well as a defensive option. Okay? And this all breaks down into one idea. Look. So you're looking every 2 seconds, you're looking to see where players on the field are. You're anticipating the direction that the ball is going to move in. And after you anticipate, you've looked, you've analyzed, you have anticipated, you move into the space that's going to open up when the ball is shifted from one side to the other. Look, anticipate, move.